All right, I'm here with my 2013 Carrera. This is a base car, so 3.4 liter. And these cars are rated for 350 horsepower, which seems adequate. You know, this engine, because it's normally aspirated, you really need to rev it. It wants to be up higher in the rev range. That's where it really starts to make power and it's more responsive. So as far as torque, it really does lack torque. So just seat of the pants, if you're not revving it, the car doesn't feel particularly fast. So here's the thing. So it wants to be revved, and that's not normally how I drive, but you know, if that's the characteristic of the engine, I have no problem. But the car really doesn't sound that great. It doesn't sound great at low revs, but when you start to give it gas, you get over about 4,000 RPMs, it does start to feel and sound more alive, but it's still lacking. Like, you can tell this engine can sound really good, but the stock OEM exhaust is pretty constricting as far as the sound. So anyway, I was kind of looking at options. I didn't really want to spend a lot on an exhaust. I don't know how long I'll keep the car, but I think the next buyer would be happy to have better sound coming from the exhaust. The engine note isn't very inspiring. And you know, when I had my 996, I did the Gundo hack to those mufflers, and that just sounded so great. Everybody thought it sounded great. I think I can get that same sound with this, not anything that would drone, but just something that makes it sound sporty and kind of wants you to rev it a little bit more, you know, kind of encourages those high RPMs because it sounds good. So I was looking at options, trying not to spend a lot. And what I did was I came across this. This is a Sharkwerks X pipe. So it's a cross pipe, crossover pipe. I found it on Renless. One of the forum members was selling it. So I want to put it in my car. And what that does is replaces the center muffler on this car. So you still have the side mufflers, but it gets rid of the big, heavy, kind of constricting center muffler. So I'm hoping that that's going to make the car sound better. So before I made the purchase, I had called Sharkwerks just to understand what the installation process was and get more information about the cross pipe. And the seller did tell me that he has none of the hardware, installation hardware. So I knew I was going to buy that from Sharkwerks. But just want to plug them because they were so great. It's rare these days to have a company that doesn't kind of rush you off the phone or doesn't have a lot of expertise with the products. These guys know their stuff, really willing to talk to you, and I can't say enough good things about them. While I was on the phone, I asked about reports of a vibration. So in these normally aspirated cars with, especially with the PDKs, a lot of people were getting a vibration once they put that cross pipe in. I saw reports that the sticks, the manual cars also, not as much, but it was also being reported. So I asked about that, and those guys were totally upfront. I think they learned over time why this was happening, and now it's in their instructions, and they give as much information about as possible. But they said, if you're going to install a pipe and you think you're going to be sensitive to a vibration noise, or you want the best shot at not having any vibration, you really should change the plugs and clean the throttle body, because these cars are prone to build up like oil and carbon soot kind of stuff in the throttle body. They just get dirty pretty quickly too. So even if you clean it, you may need to clean it again in 15,000 miles. Like, that's how quickly these cars get dirty. So what happens is, once it gets dirty, it affects the flow, airflow through the throttle body. the ECU is trying to compensate for that, so it makes adjustments, and all of a sudden the idle speed is not quite to spec. Maybe it's a little bit higher, but that's all it takes, and this vibration occurs. So if you can get the idle speed to spec, there's no issue. But as these cars get dirty, it changes. And most people would drive them and never know the life of the car. And that big center muffler, it masks all of that because there's just so much baffling and everything going on, you don't even realize it. But, you know, this pipe is simply a pipe, you know, no restriction. So that stuff's going to be, you'll hear it if your car is doing that. So I figured I'm going to change the plugs. I'm going to do both of those while I'm doing the pipe. I'll just put the car up in the air, take my time. I want to hit all the fasteners with penetrating oil, give them a few days. I've got plugs on order. I'll take the throttle body out and we'll clean that. So all of that stuff's good. The car has almost 40,000 miles, so it'll there's no downside to doing that kind of maintenance. Okay, I just want to show you these cat studs, the studs on the catalytic converter. They're really bad. I don't even see threads on there. This I've tried to start to clean, and I hit this with penetrating oil 24 hours ago. And I'm just afraid once I start to go to take these nuts off, I might snap a stud. These studs, I guess, are pressed in to the flange on the cat. Yeah, see, it's really... I'm just going to hit it again with penetrating oil and work on trying to clean the threads and try to figure out whether I'm going to try to loosen the bolts, try to get a feel with a hand tool. Probably won't put an impact driver on it. And if I feel like they're going to snap, then what I could do is try to cut the nut, like take a Dremel to that nut and cut a line through it until I get to the stud, and that'll kind of relieve some of that tension there, and I'll be able to remove the nut. Now the threads under the nut I'm sure are good, so I should be able to reuse the stud even though they're in bad shape if I can get the nuts off. Alright, so these things have soaked a while, so let's try to get the tips off here. This is E12, by the way. No problem. I could tell that penetrating oil, it started at the top and it came down all the way through the threads, so I wouldn't be surprised if this whole thing is just soaked. Alright, that was pretty easy. Let me get the other one. Alright, so that nut breaker didn't work. It just kept slipping off. Let me give it a little torque and see what happens. It's been penetrating for days now. Hit it over and over. And I put my 12 millimeter on it. And, you know, it had to kind of lay into it a little bit, but then it just kind of let go. So, very happy with this one. You can see I've got like a big long extension on it right here. And I'm coming through where the tips were. Alright, so you can see that stud there. And you can see the threads actually fine. So I lucked out. There's 1 out of 6. I lucked out. But that inspires me to try that on all of these. Give it a little bit of torque. Not enough to break the stud, but let's just see. Will they open up? Maybe that PB blaster did its job. Alright, we've got a 12 millimeter deep socket here. All right, I do not want to go much more than that. Whoa, look at that. All right, you can see how far the nut has come out, but it's actually behaving like a thread chaser right now, because it's just kind of cleaning and cutting things as it goes. So I'm just taking my time. When it starts to get hard, I'm just reversing. And once again, you can see those threads. I'll be able to reuse this. Okay, let's see. Can we do one more? That's all. That's all, just one more. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, I'm surprised. Very surprised. I guess I'm just haunted by my past and dealing with terrible rusted exhaust hardware. I just fear for the worst all the time now. All right, awesome. Got all 6. All right, so I kind of cleaned this up enough to get a 13 millimeter on there. I cranked on it. It doesn't budge. So now what I could do is put a 1/2 inch drive on there and really bear down, and pretty sure this thing would just snap. I could put an impact driver on it and that'll snap it, I'm sure. The other thing is one of the forum members showed that he cut this with a Dremel. Storm Rune, he has a video where he cut the straps, the clamps, with a Dremel and got to it that way. I'm thinking if I snap these, I might be able to reuse the clamps. I'm not sure if this is a stud that's tack welded, or if it's pressed, or if it's just a round head bolt. I don't know. But if I snap it, I should be able to open up the clamp. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So let me get an impact driver and we'll see what happens. All right, this should be fun. We got the big kahuna and the 13 millimeter socket. And let's give it a go. It's spinning. I'm on like mid power too, so. All right, let's try the second one here. What happened there? Spun the bolt, maybe? You knew we couldn't totally luck out, could we? Alright, so I can't really get a Dremel in there, but I can get my cutting wheel. This is a pneumatic cutting wheel. And I should be able to get that blade right in there, not damage the clamp. I just have to like kind of brace my hands here. Alright, that felt like it went through. Let's take a look. Yep, there you go. Okay, not sure if you can see, but so these clamps are loose, but see this? This is like a sleeve that goes over the joint, and then the clamp goes over the sleeve. So all 3 of these pieces are needed to actually do the clamping. But you can see this pipe is now separated from the center muffler right there. There's a gap. So anyway, I'm gonna go the other side. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I won't bring the camera, but you can see, you know, I'll probably use the impact driver and then cut it if I can't get it out. All right, we've got to get the two straps off of the center muffler, and the fastener is here. That's a T40. So this doesn't look bad. It doesn't look like there's much rust there. So let me get a wrench on it. Yep, no problem getting this one out. Okay, we've got all the fasteners undone. And of course this thing won't budge, right? But we are hanging on these studs on both sides. So it's not going to want to move until we get it off of the studs. We can't really do that with this bracket in the way. There's a bracket on both sides. And not sure if you can see, but there's a couple nuts on there that if we loosen, we should be able to pull this away enough and hopefully get the center muffler off the studs. Okay, time to try to take this thing down. So we've got the bracket pulled away there. On this side, I removed the bracket. The bracket actually was kind of like heat welded to the flange. All right, here it is. This thing is big and heavy. Okay, I removed the metal gaskets and I just want to clean up the surface of the flange before we put up the X pipe. All right, so I've got the gaskets on, ready to hang. The X pipe, I just want to put a little bit of anti-seize on these studs. I'll kind of spread that out with my finger. All right, getting the bracket back in position. Remember, I removed this. Okay, if you notice, I'm kind of going backwards here, and if you want to know why, it's because both of these nuts stripped. Before I could get to 18 foot-pounds, they stripped. So there's just not enough meat on the studs. So those are going to have to be removed. I don't know if I can punch them out, if I have to drill them out. I'm not looking forward to that, but the other side seemed to be tightening well. I never got to the full torque spec, so I don't know if any of those are going to strip. But, yep, just part of the fun. All right, guys, so I've got my hydraulic table, and I've got a small vise sitting here. And you can see I've got a shallow socket, or at least the shallowest I've got. And I've got the nut on the stud. And I tested this a second ago, and I did hear it kind of break, like click, click. So I think it's breaking loose now. I had to reposition everything, so let's keep cranking on it. Now I've got a big pipe that I can put on the vise because I can't really turn the handle that well. Okay, so when I cranked on it before and I heard it pop, it actually just released. So I can just bang this thing out through the back now. All right, so the vise didn't work on this one. I just can't get it in there. Okay, I'm gonna try this clamp again. I'll crank it until it starts to drift, and then I wanna just give it a hit with a hammer over here, and just maybe that extra shock will break it loose. Let's give it a go. I really think the C-clamp's bending. You know, I think that might have moved. Let's see. To me, it looks like that stud moved a little. I'm cranking it till I get a little nervous, then I'm tapping it. And look what happened. All right, that's good. Do you think that's the last of it? We'll see. All right, we're back on the other side. Now, I never got to a point to tighten the nuts on this side to see if I could get to the actual torque spec. And I'm looking at these, and, you know, the top one looks okay. It's the same kind of thing. The bottom one's got some missing threads in the middle, and then this one, which is the tough one to get to, is pretty bad. So now that I've kind of got the technique to remove these, or at least it worked on the other side. I don't know if it'll work on this. This one, if I can get the vise on it, that should go nice. This with the C-clamps a little sketchy, but I think I probably should just deal with these now instead of getting to the point where everything's hanging, and then if I strip it or I can't use those studs, I'm gonna have to pull everything apart. So let me do that. I'm gonna work on these two. I won't bore you with details. If I have to use a technique that I didn't already use, I'll let you know. Okay, that first easy stud, the bottom one, came right out with the vise, and I was able to get the vise in this position, which is kind of weird, but it's securely on that stud that's kind of difficult, and I needed the C-clamp for last time. So I'm able to crank on it, so let me keep going with this. Okay, that's a good sound. Scary sound, but good. Okay, that loud big crack, that was the entire stud letting go in one shot. All right, we're getting there. We got the passenger side done. These are all torqued to 18 foot-pounds. All right, that's what these studs are supposed to be torqued to. This hardware actually was in the Sharkwerks box when I ordered the gasket and the installation kit. So they probably anticipated that these studs would be ruined when you go to swap it out. So that's good. Saved me a trip. Good quality stainless nut and bolt there. And I put anti-seize on the threads, and all I need to do is button up the driver's side, torque to spec, and then reassemble. Okay, so this sleeve and clamps, that has to be in position. So on this side, I slid this over, connected the two pipes with the sleeve. Now I do have to get new hardware for that, so I'm going to the hardware store anyway. Little tip though, when you go to slide this doesn't want to slide. Just hit one side with WD-40, and then once you start to get to that side, everything will free up. So I'll put WD-40 on this side, and then as this sleeve comes over, and you know, like I put a pry bar on the clamps, and so I'm wiggling the clamp with the pry bar till I get it on the WD-40, and then everything slides in position. All right, so we've got the new stainless steel hardware on here. So the exhaust is up and secure. So the only thing left are the tips, and I don't want to put those back up until I have the bumper cover on, because I want to use that as a reference to figure out where the tips should go, up, down, left, right. So I'll do that at the end. I still have to clean the throttle body. I did the plugs. That's in a separate video. And I've got to remove the air cleaner and do the throttle body. So that'll be in a separate video as well. So anyway, I'm getting there. Again, there's no rush on this project, but now that the exhaust is up, I'm getting a little anxious. I'd love to hear what it sounds like. Anyway, we'll be back. All right, I want to show a couple clips before and after. The before clip will have the car starting. It's cold. It's been sitting for days. So the idle is high. So if anything, it should be a little bit more aggressive than normal. Now the second clip is the car warm with the new exhaust. All right, so if you guys are considering the Sharkwerks X pipe, hopefully this video helps. You can see what's involved with the installation, and also those sound clips at the end hopefully are helpful. That's always tough, I find. I will say, just seat of the pants, driving the car now with the exhaust. At below 3,500, I don't see a huge difference as far as volume. So the car's not noticeably louder below that. Once you get above that, it is noticeably louder, and you can tell that the exhaust is different from the OEM. Now, that's the volume. As far as the tone is definitely different, even at low volumes, and I like the tone now. It's got kind of a tinny, raspier kind of tone, which makes it stand out. So even at lower volumes, it does sound either modified or more aggressive, which I like. So I guess that I would sum it up by saying, if you're looking for something louder, like clearly louder across the rev range, you might want to consider something else. Or you could do the Gundo hack to the side mufflers. So you could install the X pipe and do that Gundo hack, and you'd have a loud exhaust and probably a different tone as well. I would say that when I did the Gundo hack on my 996, it was louder than this car through the rev range. So from bottom to top, it was louder. And if you think about it, that car didn't have a center muffler, so modifying those side mufflers would make it louder. So these side mufflers are still the OEM stock side mufflers, so you got to expect that it's not going to be as loud. So anyway, like I said, I like the tone. I'm happy with it, and for the price, I'm clearly happy. So I will enjoy this and probably not look to upgrade. So anyway, hopefully this video helps you guys.